People have been asking me for the longest time to recommend books to them. So now I'm going to do just that. Here are my top book recommendations in no particular order. Quick disclaimer though, I am not getting paid to recommend these books to you. I kind of wish I was because I am about to sell the fuck out these books. But it's fine, your attention is payment enough. We're going to start off with a heavy hitter, Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. You know Napoleon Hill, right? The same guy that wrote the book Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, same guy. Except this is a way better book. Not only is the message in the book powerful, but the way it's delivered is pure genius. The book is formatted to look like an interview that Napoleon Hill himself is having with the devil. Except it's not really an interview, it's more like an interrogation. And it's one the devil is forced to undergo against his will. He's forced to spill the beans about how exactly he enslaves and entraps the minds of human beings, using the law of hypnotic rhythm, all the while trying his best to maintain frame within the conversation somehow. Like he gets Napoleon Hill to call him master throughout the entire interrogation, as a way to show defiance and hold some degree of power within the entire interrogation. Spoiler alert, it doesn't really work. He spills the beans. Up next is Sperm by Robin Baker. I probably should have left this one for last because this is the kind of book that'll fuck you up for life. It's a human behavioral science book based solely on evolutionary psychology, and it is painfully eye-opening. You've been warned. I am guaranteeing you right now it'll completely shift the way you look at relationships and dating for the rest of your life. If you're the kind of person that still wants to get married, I dare you to read this book and not completely change your mind about that. If you're the kind of person that still has a slither of belief in monogamy, I dare you to read this book and still be monogamous. This is the book that made me decide that every single child I'll ever have in this life will be DNA tested. If you've ever looked at me and wondered why I'm so nonchalant about things like double standards and cheating, this is the book that'll explain why. No, seriously, this is the book that'll let you know a lot of things you think you need to worry about in relationships are completely inconsequential. It really is amazing how much time we spend thinking about things that really don't matter in the end because the biological imperative to survive and replicate just does not care about what you think about. Lying, cheating, misdirection, it's all part of the game. There are no morals or ethics in this game. No, seriously, I could go on all day about this book. This is the book that'll completely remove your faith in any human's ability to suppress their base instincts. It's the book that'll show you how stupid you've been up until now for expecting more from people. It'll show you just how much it is to ask people to be better than their impulses. And it'll truly make you feel like shit for asking for what you've all this time thought was the bare minimum. Anyway, looks like I gotta do a part 2 to this. Book recommendations part 2. Let's go. Number 3, the Wiley Lynch letter and the making of a slave. Yeah, I'm going there. This book, in summary, was written by a slave owner on how to be a successful slave master. And I gotta tell you, it's a fantastic read, assuming you read it the right way. Let me explain. The problem with most people, especially black people, is that they read this book like they watch the movie Roots, or Django Unchained, or whatever. They get emotional and feel sad and frustration and anger. But if you can for 1 second while you read this book detach yourself from whatever emotions that you think you're supposed to feel, then what you end up with is some great advice on how to psychologically dominate a group of people, effectively so. It doesn't really matter in my mind that this is about slaves and owning slaves. It doesn't really matter to me if Wiley Lynch was a real person or not. No one can even really agree on what he looked like or if he was real at all. All that matters is that the information in there is useful. Besides, whether Wiley Lynch was a real person with an alias or a fictional character, you can't tell me that there wasn't some guy back in the slave trade days that really was this figure. A person who just knew a lot more about slave trade than everyone else and that everyone got consultation from. You want to know how I know someone like that probably existed? Because people like that exist today. What do you think Anthony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hormozy are? They're guys who know a little more about business than everybody else and who everyone seeks advice from. It is what it is. Slave trade was no different from any other kind of business model. The only difference is that people were the asset within the business model. Again, I really want to emphasize this. Don't read this book like just another emotionally compelling storybook. Be result-oriented and read the book like you're trying to extract knowledge from it. The next book is Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. And I gotta tell you, this book is fucking underrated. It really does baffle me that no one talks about this book. Because in my personal opinion, this is the greatest thing Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has ever put out. Fuck Many Men, fuck In the Club, fuck his deal with vitamin water. This book is his greatest, most timeless piece of work. I now understand why Robert Greene took such a liking to him. I mean, don't get it twisted, that's 50 Cent. I've always had respect for this man. But seeing the way he's articulated his thoughts and ideas in this book and his greater level of self-awareness is just so interesting and refreshing. Personally, my favorite chapter in the book has to be the one where he talks about the fear he underwent while he was recovering from getting shot 9 times. Because everyone thinks the story of how he got shot 9 times is pretty cool, but not once has anyone ever stopped to think, okay, how did he overcome the psychological warfare in his mind from getting shot 9 times? Book recommendations, part 3. Number 3, The Mystery Method by Eric von Markovic, aka Mystery. I've always told people, if you ask someone if they know anything about pickup and pickup artistry and they mention this book up here, The Game, then you have my express permission to slap them in the face. They don't know shit. This book, The Game, was written by a man called Neil Strauss, a journalist that was allowed to hang out and document the actions of pickup artists around him. But he wasn't a pickup artist, and it shows in the way he wrote this book. This book is the historical events of the early pickup artists back in the 90s. Not a manual or a guide to real pickup artistry. The real manual is this book, The Mystery Method. Eric von Markovic, aka Mystery, is the white Jesus Christ of pickup artistry. And he details in his book, The Mystery Method, the A to Z of pickup arts. And it's primarily based on evolutionary psychology and operant conditioning. Which means his book, The Mystery Method, is the very skeleton of how to interact with women. A lot of people will claim that a lot of the things in this book are outdated and won't work anymore. And to those people, I say, you're stupid. You're very stupid. If you have at least an above average IQ, you know you don't have to copy the exact lines in this book. You can be creative all on your own to some degree to take the principles in this book and apply them today, and they will work just fine. Also, you can listen to the audio version of it on YouTube. Just keep that in mind. Some of y'all are going to be genuinely surprised by this next book recommendation. But I want you to read The Rational Male Preventive Medicine by Rollo Tomasi, and here's why. I know, I give the red pill a lot of shit sometimes. But what a lot of you don't know is that back in the day, we didn't call it the red pill. You see, the truth is what we know as the red pill today started out as a subsect of pickup artistry. And we didn't call it the red pill, we just called them theory junkies. Basically, the pickup artists were split into 2 different kinds of guys for the most part. The first were the theory junkies, the guys in the basement crunching on the numbers, studying all the things about evolutionary psychology, and figuring out new, inventive, modern techniques to use on women. Basically, they were the geniuses in the basement, the big brain guys. But as much brain as they had no balls, so they didn't really practice anything they preached. Which brings us to the other kind of guy who was Mr. Big Balls but not too much brains. The big balls, no brains guys would always repeat the same rhetoric. The world belongs to the doers, not the thinkers. You're just so scared of approaching women. You have no idea what you're talking about because you're not on the field. And then big brain, no balls dudes would be like, no, you're wrong. Your results are inconsistent because you do not pay attention to the fine details of the numbers. It was the classic nerds versus jocks type of thing, pretty much. Now, some of us were smart and realized that the best way to be is to be a complete hybrid of both. As in have the brains to think technique through first, before executing, but actually have the balls to execute as well. But for the most part, the theory junkies began to form their own factions, and that is what we know as the red pill today. And don't get me wrong, they're really smart individuals. They know how to theorize, but they suck at execution, and because of that, they have no real practical knowledge. That's why you see me dismantle the red pill as often as I do, because it's easy. They usually don't know what they're talking about, and they always contradict themselves. From what I can tell, a lot of you agree with me on this. By the way, quick side note. The number of people that have told me that they're scared of me to blow up and become big is honestly baffling. Bruh, my own core fans don't want me to get famous. What the fuck? Someone told me during a coaching call recently, I don't want you to blow up. You're gonna stay my little secret forever because I don't want these other niggas finding out about you. Damn, son. So clearly, word of mouth is not an option for my business model. Fuck that. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that Rollo Tomasi is a genius when it comes to theorizing game. But just like the rest of the Red Pill, he sucks when it comes to practical knowledge because he doesn't have any. I want you to read all his Rational Male books, the entire series, not just Preventive Medicine. Preventative Medicine is his most popular by far. And again, amazing book, great read, highly informational. But it won't help you with getting good with women. It's not a book that teaches you attack, it's a book that teaches you defense, if that makes any sense. This book wasn't written for men who are good with women or want to be good with women. It was written for men who want to play defense and be conservative to keep the woman that they already have. It's really a guide for beta males on how to protect themselves and their wives from alpha males like me. That's just the truth. I know it sounds arrogant, but it's true. For the longest time, when I first read this book, I was calling this book the beta male. Because in my mind, it should have been named The Beta Male. How to exist as a beta male in a world that isn't conducive for beta males. By the time I had picked up this book to read it, I was already decently good with women. So reading this book for me wasn't like eye-opening in the, oh my god, this is great type of way. It was eye-opening in the, oh, so this is what they're up to type of way. Imagine a lion gaining access to some kind of like antelope guide on how to escape lions. That's what it felt like reading this book. I was flipping to the pages like, oh, so this is what these guys are up to. This is how they think. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, so that's why that guy's wife fucked me that one time. Ah, okay, it was that time of the month. Okay, good to know. So if you're a beta male and you need to protect your girl from guys like me, go and pick this book up right now.